Hello, welcome to my walk of the 27th of January 2022. We've had a lot of rain and floods and the grass is growing tall. Oh, that's a noisy miner, and he is an Australian water dragon sitting on a rock. And another little water dragon on a rock. Later on we'll see a photo of a water dragon hiding inside a bush while it's shedding its skin. Oh, and look, the egrets are still there, at least some of them are still there. And the Ibis, and there's probably be a few corellas in amongst them as well. Some of them are still nesting. There's one egret heading off for something important. Looks like it was a cattle egret. You might notice some of the older chicks in the nests flapping their wings, getting ready to learn to fly. They seem to flap like this for several weeks before they actually take off and leave the nest. The trees aren't as overburdened with nesting birds now as they were earlier. If you've been watching my walks from the beginning, you'll have seen them all being hatched and growing up. There's a few ibis. This used to be their hangout, but then the egrets moved in and took over from them. And the ibis have been very patient, making room for the visiting egrets. That's a family of dusky moorhens. A lot of those water weeds are about to be removed. And another dusky moorhen with a couple of chicks. All of those nesting egrets, ibis, cormorants and other birds are enjoying the safety of big trees on a couple of little islands in the lake. This is a man-made lake and it is in the middle of a suburb. There's houses all around it and cars zooming by on a busy street, 4-lane street just outside. And all these birds just come here and make it home. The egrets arrived here all of a sudden and just took over these trees. Most of them have gone now. The chicks have hatched and have moved on, but there's still a few left. I suspect the ibis is starting to hope that they'll get their trees back soon. But there's a lot more cormorants there now than there used to be because they've been breeding in these trees as well. I like to include some of the plants, especially the weeds that the insects that feed the birds are in. And there's the black swans. They're not often at the lake, but they are there occasionally. All those water weeds, we'll see the machine soon that's going to destroy them all. People like to walk around the lake. It's 2.5 kilometres around the lake. And you can walk around or cycle around. A lot of people walk their dogs around the lake. And there's also lots of people pushing their babies in prams. It's a nice walk. You can almost think you're out in the countryside when you're right in the middle of the suburbs. I like to get photos of those islands where they join to the water because there's often interesting birds there, the birds that I don't usually see. And I take the photos home and have a close look to see what birds are just standing around near the water's edge. But there was nothing interesting there today, just the usual egrets and ibis and things like that. January is the middle of summer and the days are quite long compared to winter days, and it's about 5:30 in the afternoon when I got these photos of the swans. So the sun is getting low. It won't be totally dark till about 7 o'clock, but it will soon be too dark for me to take photos. I think I'll get around the lake before it gets that dark on this day. In winter time it starts getting dark at about 4:30ish, so I've got to walk earlier on those during the winter. The cattle egret just landed on the rock and now it's going to have a drink of water before it flies off again. And we can hear the corellas squawking overhead. They're flying around crazily as usual. I'll try to get some photos of them, but we can certainly hear them. We know they're there. There's the photo of the corellas. There's another one coming up next, but they're a bit harder to see, and yet you can sort of see them flying across the treetops there. The final photos of the bird islands, and that's a tiny little swamp hen chick. They're like a couple of little black pom-poms when they're first hatched. there's a swamp hen sitting on a nest in the lake. Oh, there's a butterfly there. You can hardly see it, but it is there. And there's just some insects and an Australian water dragon. And that's a dusky moorhen. I'm not sure if it's on a nest or not. I think that's tea tree flowers. And a dusky moorhen. And another dusky moorhen, but that's a chick. It's almost grown up now. There's that water weeding machine that's going to start clearing out the lake. Suddenly, across the whole lake, all of the adult birds seem to stop and focus their attention on the sky. Oh, the hawk. All the birds suddenly went a bit squawky, and then they went very quiet and they watched, wondering if they were going to be that hawk's dinner. But it eventually flew off, and then they all got back to doing their usual thing. A relieved swamp hen getting back to his usual business of looking for food. Just a view across the lake. Oh, and that's a bottle brush flower. See, it's a little bit different from the tea tree flowers. Halfway around the lake now, and I got to this point. That's a little sculpture. There's a few of them scattered around. Some more dusky moorhen chicks. The dusky moorhens stay together as families, and the chicks from one year stay with the parents for the next year to help raise the next year's chicks. I think this one, or the pair of them, eventually jumped up out of the lake to tell me to keep moving, to leave their chicks alone. And since I was just walking by, I just kept on walking. That's a weed. And there's the water weeding machine. It'll get going. Probably the next video we'll see it in action. Hey, there is the water dragon that's shedding its skin. See down near its tail? Skin's coming off. Another water dragon. It's a small one. Now these ducks, they just live in this part of the pond and they stick together. That other black and white duck that arrived a couple of weeks ago is still here, but I could only get a picture of its tail. I think it was eating something in the grass, and I had to keep on walking. Here's some more corellas. They're up in the tree. I was sitting on a seat underneath them, and they are busily eating. They love to eat the flowers, and they eat any sort of berries or fruits or whatever they can find in the trees. There's obviously something growing in this tree that they like to eat. It could be the flowers. I don't know what they're eating. But they're making a lot of noise, and they're obviously enjoying themselves. It's getting late. I've come quite a way since we saw the swans. That's another Australian water dragon. They just sit so still when you're there. Either that or they scamper off and hide so you can't get a picture of them. But mostly the bigger ones just stay there and look at you. There's a swamp hen and its chick. Now, this is another flowering tree. I think it could be a gum tree, but I'm not sure. Swamp hen chick. Another sculpture that's around the lake. And that's a coot. That's the only picture I've got of an Eurasian coot for this walk, and a pair of spur-winged plovers. Apparently their preferred habitat is near waterways, but they're all around the city nesting on footpaths. They just nest straight on top of the ground, and they're quite territorial and aggressive. I've even seen them attacking cars during peak hour traffic because they had a nest on the footpath not far from the street where the cars were driving. This is close to the end of the walk now. I'm looking across at where I first started the walk, and I've got to end up walking behind those blue sail things. There's often parrots eating these grevilleas, but I didn't see any there on this occasion. They love to eat the nectar in the grevilleas. Now that, I'm pretty sure, is a gum tree of some sort flowering. It's a very small garden. It's a large area of mowed grass where there's picnic tables, and someone's planted all these flowers around the base of the trees. That's back down the end. That's where the egrets are in those trees at the end there. And there's 4 lanes main street right behind that flower. See the egret trees? So well, that's the end of the video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please give it a like. And if you haven't subscribed, it would be great if you would subscribe. And thanks so much to everybody who has already subscribed. So bye bye for now, and I'll see you in the next video.